standard Volkswagen Beetle is a car that prioritizes design over practicality. The Dune version, however, ups the ante, boasting suspension that has been raised by 10 mm plus chunky unpainted plastic body moldings and silver skid plates at both ends, all in the name of style. Confirming the Beetle's position as more of a fashion statement than a 4x4, all-wheel drive is not even on the options list. This may be no off-roader, but it does hark back to the Baja bugs of the 1960s, modified Beetles designed to take on California's Golden Coast. As for rivals, there's nothing else that can match the Dune's retro looks and jacked-up stance. Closest in concept is the Mini Paceman, a 3-door, high-riding stretched Mini, followed by the Nissan Juke and DS4 Crossback, which both boast much more modern styling. Large premium over standard Beetle. Another area where the Dune stands out is in costs. The price tag of around £21,000 to £25,000 not only seems steep compared with Mini and Nissan alternatives, and represents more than a £2,000 premium over conventional Beetle equivalents in design trim, but it's hugely expensive in finance terms too. Spread the cost over 4 years and you can expect to pay around £330 per month with a £2,000 deposit. This is an enormous 50% premium over the Dune's most similar rival, the Mini Paceman Coupe, which will set you back around £220 per month with the same contract terms. As a result, drivers could afford to upgrade to the significantly more powerful Paceman Coupe RS or Diesel Coupe ST and still save around £75 per month, totaling approximately £3,500 over 4 years. Despite boasting around twice as much power as the Dune, and all-wheel drive, the range-topping Mini Paceman John Cooper Works is only about £10 more per month than the Volkswagen. Consequently, the Dune is not a car that makes any rational sense in terms of costs, a sentiment confounded when you compare prices with the Nissan Juke. A similar 1.2-liter petrol model will set you back around £170 per month, while even the rapid Juke Nismo RS is about £260 per month. Inflated monthly finance bills but big cash discounts. So expensive is the Dune in finance terms that you can drive a near £9,000 pricier, and much faster, more upmarket and more desirable, Audi TT for a very similar monthly payment. Be aware, however, that Volkswagen is offering a £3,000 discount to cash buyers across the range, making the Dune far better value to those who have cash to spend or plan to finance the car with a loan. Despite very high list prices and finance costs, there's still nothing that can live up to the Dune's fun, retro vibe. The engines on offer, however, are rather less fun, with just an entry-level 105 horsepower 1.2-liter petrol and a 150 horsepower 2.0-liter diesel. Review to see whether the Beetle Dune offers other reasons to pay a premium over the standard Beetle. Only 2 of the standard Beetle's engines make their way into the Dune, the 1.2-liter petrol and a 2.0-liter diesel. Both are available in manual and DSG automatic form, but that's where your choices end. With 105 horsepower on tap in 1.2-liter petrol form, the cheaper Beetle Dune models aren't fast. The engine needs to be worked hard to accelerate briskly, and even then you'd expect a little more muscle from a car that costs so much. Thankfully though, the gear change is slick, helping the driver to make the most of the motor's power. Press the throttle at low engine speeds and the motor pauses briefly before responding to, meaning that you often find yourself driving the Dune harder than you would a car that had more power in reserve. The petrol motor is more suited to gentle cruising than fast driving and fulfills this role well, feeling less overwhelmed by the weight of the car. Meanwhile, claimed economy for both manual and automatic versions stands at just over 50 miles per gallon, not bad for a car of this size. The diesel shaves more than 2 seconds from the time the Dune needs to accelerate to 62 miles per hour, taking it down from 10.9 to 8.6 seconds. More than nippy enough for most drivers. Claimed fuel economy is not that different, however, with official figures of around 60 miles per gallon, depending whether you choose the manual or automatic. Top speeds for the Dune come in at 110 miles per hour for the petrol and 124 miles per hour to 126 miles per hour for the diesel. Though automatic gearboxes often struggle when mated to less powerful engines, the 1.2-liter petrol works very well in DSG form, feeling surprisingly responsive compared with the manual. Thanks to a premium of more than £2,500 for the diesel, the petrol makes more sense to most buyers, bar those who have to have the fastest or the most economical Dune. The Dune is no sports car, but with wide, grippy tires it is surprisingly fun to drive across twisty, undulating roads. In petrol form, the car has much more grip than power, meaning that it feels very safe and is adept at taking corners quickly. The diesel offers a more even split between power and grip, but still wears wide rubber and shares the petrol model's agility. The chunky tires also give added weight to the steering, with the unusually narrow-rimmed steering wheel providing a good sense of confidence in how hard you're working the front tires. Firm suspension meanwhile keeps the body of the car in check around bends. All in all, the Dune surprises the driver in just how capable it is in terms of tackling more challenging roads. The suspension may not be as soft as some rivals, but the Dune does a good job of taking lumps and bumps in the road in its stride, without being thrown off course. Volkswagen is renowned for making high-quality, well-designed interiors. However, the Beetle Dune feels like it has traded some of that quality for garish colors and cheaper materials. Our test car came in lurid sandstorm yellow and plenty of this cold hue was slathered across the dashboard, doors and seats. Very much an acquired taste. While the similarly priced Volkswagen Golf feels very stylish and plush inside, the Beetle somehow loses this sense, with hard, cheap-feeling plastic scattered around the cabin. What does set it apart, however, is the fact that the seats are mounted quite low in the car, which adds to the sporty feel. The basic air conditioning controls are perfectly usable but don't feel like they belong in such a pricey car. Meanwhile, the optional sat-nav system in our test car isn't the easiest to use or the slickest, with a relatively small, unresponsive screen lost in quite a large bezel. The menus are not as up-to-date as many other Volkswagens, either. Simply entering an address is a more convoluted process than it should be too. This jacked-up Beetle also gains a turbo boost gauge, clock and temperature readouts sprouting from the top of the dashboard, which true to the Dune recipe revolve more around form than function. It's the same story with the upward-opening top glove box, which offers just enough space for a few pens or maybe a phone or two, but not much else, though there is at least a conventional glove box below. Our test car had an armrest that could have come in handy, but we couldn't get it to stand up by itself. Though firm, we found the suspension more than comfortable enough in the Beetle Dune, smoothing out the worst of the road surface, impressively so, considering how well the car handles. More of a limiting factor is the shapeless driver's seat, which doesn't offer much back or side support. The seat base also feels very long, meaning that some drivers may not be able to find a comfortable driving position. We found it difficult to operate the clutch smoothly with the seat in what felt like the most natural position. As a result, potential buyers should take a long test drive to make sure that they can get comfy. Alternatively, the DSG automatic gearbox is very slick and makes driving the Dune a much more relaxing experience. Other irritations come in the form of a particularly stiff handbrake, unusual itself for being a manual handbrake rather than an electric button-operated version, and the high levels of tire noise thrown up by the overly wide wheels. On the positive side, the petrol engine is very quiet even when worked hard and little wind noise is audible. You'd expect the Beetle to share a similar haul of equipment to the more sensible Golf hatchback, however the latter gives you more equipment, including sat-nav, and a much more powerful engine for less money. As a result, the standard kit that comes on the Dune feels very stingy. You do get handy automatic headlights and wipers, front and rear parking sensors, an armrest plus a 6.5-inch touchscreen media system, but that's about it. Everything else is cosmetic. Volkswagen throws in 18-inch alloy wheels and the suspension is 10 mm higher than the standard car, though this provides no tangible benefit to customers. It's the same story for the numerous exterior trim tweaks that set the Dune apart. Some drivers will love these but others will hate them. The Beetle was last crash tested in 2011, on a system with slightly different parameters to the current test. However, it should remain a reasonably safe car. All Beetle Dunes get twin front and side airbags, plus a raft of safety kit including active head restraints, and ISOFIX child seat preparation for both of the rear seats. The car also gets Volkswagen's automatic post-collision braking system that brings the car to a safe stop in the event of a crash, to prevent subsequent collisions. One of the Dune's main selling points, its unique curvy styling, may make it stand out, but it also limits practicality somewhat, as does the three-door unibody. As a result, neither the rear seats nor the boot compare well against rivals. With no five-door option, rear passengers have to clamber their way into the back of the Beetle and, when in, head and legroom is limited. There's only space for 2 passengers, too. Even those under 6 feet tall may find their heads resting on the roof, and the story doesn't get that much better in the boot. Volume isn't bad at 310 liters with the rear seats up, rising to 905 liters if you drop the seats. Though the Dune's most obvious rivals all best these figures by around 1020%. It's not the most usefully shaped boot, either, due to the car's sloping silhouette, meaning that fitting in larger items might be tricky. Fitting smaller items into the Dune can be challenging as well. The front door bins are useless, consisting of fabric straps, while passengers in the rear have a tiny cup holder to fight over, plus minute trays at the side of the cabin. Adding to storage, there are 2 much more useful large cup holders behind the gear stick.